Welcome to CorelDraw, drawing and tracing. It's all about nodes. The first thing I'd like to do is to lock down a bitmap graphic that I have imported into CorelDraw. You do that with your pick tool, which is the top tool on the upper left toolbar. You select your bitmap, go up to Objects, down to Lock and Lock. And now that bitmap can't move around while I'm tracing. So what is a node? A node is a point in an object where the direction of the line begins to change. A node determines the shape of the curve or straight line going both into and coming out of the node. Then you have node control handles. They are arms or dotted lines with an arrow that extend from a node, allowing you to manipulate or change the curve direction. My favorite tool to use is for drawing or tracing is the Bezier tool, and that can be found on your toolbar as well. If you go to your fifth tool down, click on that and you'll see the third one down is your Bezier tool. We're going to select that. Now we're going to go in, and what I'm going to simply do with a Bezier tool is I can do something we call drop a node. I'm going to click. I'm going to go up to where I want my next node to be dropped, and then the next one, and the next one. And notice that I have used guidelines where I want to drop them, make it faster and easier to drop them. And I'm going to go to the edge, zoom in, and make sure that I have connected the last line with the first line. Now, to see my nodes, I go to the Shape tool, which is the second tool down on the toolbar, and as soon as I click on it, you can see that there is squares in the upper portion of the object that I just drew, and then an arrow down the bottom. That arrow shows the direction that I drew all the lines, and notice that each of those lines are straight lines. So I want those lines to become curve lines. So I'm going to start with the first node that I dropped, or actually the second node I dropped. Click on it with the Shape tool, and then notice up in the upper menu I have Convert to Curve, and I'm going to click on Convert to Curve, and now I have a curve. You'll see the handles with the arrows, and there is my favorite way to make this into a curve is clicking on the line and pulling on it. And I can simply put it pretty much into the shape I want it there, and then I'll go back and refine that. Some lines pull a lot closer to where you want it and others don't. Then I go on to the third node, and I want to turn that into a curve, and again I do the same thing. I click on the line when I have that little squiggly line, pull it, and now I have a line, a curve that is relatively in the shape of what I want. I'll go to the next one, turn it into a curve. I'm going to go towards that middle of that line. I got the little S mark there, which means that I'm right on it. Click and pull. And this one is not quite what I want it, but that's okay. I'll refine that later, and actually what I'm going to draw is going to be better than the bitmap was originally. You can see the bitmap is fairly rough. Go to my next node, turn it into a curve, pull on it, and I can do this pretty fast. I've been doing it for a long time now, and have gotten pretty efficient at it. And notice I'm going to pull this down just a little bit from the center, and you get to know where to pull line to get the design of the curve the way you want it. So I'm going to go up to my second node that I clicked and refine by putting on the node control handles a little bit, and you'll see as I move around I just pulled it right in a really good place there. I'm going to pull the first node handle down a little bit, and I've got it pretty good shape there. Notice that there's like a little bump going in and out of that second node, and the reason is there are three types of nodes. What I have here is what's called a cusp node, and a cusp node is designated as a default by the square, and a cusp node is a node that where you have a different curve that goes into the node and that comes out of the node. So I can turn this into a 90-degree turn here by taking my handle and pulling on it. I've got a relatively 90-degree turn there. If I take this node, I can turn it into what's called a smooth node. A smooth node has the same shape going both in and out. That's why it's smooth, yet it's not necessarily symmetrical. So to create a smooth node, I go up, and you can see that this is darked out. That's my cusp node. This is my smooth node, and my symmetrical node, which we haven't spoken about yet. I'm going to click on the smooth node, and I'm going to go to my next node, which I want to be a smooth node, and notice how smooth this is. There is no bump here. If I go to these other handles, I just want them relatively similar here. I'm going to pull this up a little bit. Like I said, this bitmap was not perfect by any means, and certainly in tracing most of these objects that you're going to draw, if you're going to laser engrave them, which is what I generally do with them, or sand etch them, they don't need to be absolutely perfect. So I'm going to go over to my next node. I want that to be a smooth node, and the next node, a smooth node. Now you can see that just pulls things a little bit off here. So I'm going to move that node, which you can do again with your shape tool. Grab my control handle, pull it down a little bit, and go down to my very first node where the arrow is, and I want that to continue to be a cusp node, and even though there's an arrow there and not a square, I can tell it's a cusp node because that cusp node is blacked out up on my menu. So now I have a object that I've drawn. I'm going to fill it in and delete the line around it. You can see I've done a pretty good job there. Turned it gold, and the other parts of the object, actually there'll be 3 objects in this graphic, and this brings me to the point is, don't try to trace something that you have what they call a shape tool for. So if you look over, there's an ellipse tool, and if you hold your control key while you hold your control key, you pull out that circle, and I've got a circle that's pretty close. Let's change the color of the outline so I can see it easier. Let's go to red. Red is pretty visible here. So I want to move that a little bit and shrink it just a tiny bit. 0.55. You notice that the circle in this graphic is not perfect. That the circle that I made actually is perfect. And so I'm going to leave that. I'm going to fill it dark gold. And now I'm going to I'm going to trace the lower part, which is the body and hands of this this object. So I'm going to go up and select my Bezier tool. Again, I'm going to go down and drop my first node, go up and drop my second node, and you notice what I'm dropping him is where the direction of the curve changes. And the reason why I'm dropping him right there is that's going to be a cusp node, because the direction is and the shape of the line is slightly different going in and out. There's that little bit of a bump there. Now the second part of what would be the hand or the arm, and notice where am I going to drop my next node. I'm going to do that right in the middle, and then again up where the hand is, right where the elbow is, and then I'm going to finish by dropping a node right on the first node. And let's change that line to red so we can see it easier. Go up, turn the first one into a curve, go towards the center of it, get my little squiggly line, pull it, and shape it just a little bit there. Ooh, pretty well. Perfect line there. Now I'm going to go to my second node or third node. Again, I'm going to go pull up just a slight bit, and I think I got it perfect. Now this is the trickier one. These two lines turned into curves is going to make about a 3/4 circle here. Oh, there we got it. Now, where do you go to get a good smooth line? Okay, I can refine that again later. Generally do these pretty quick and refine later. Notice that these lines up here do not turn into curves. They are straight lines, so I don't have to bother with them. I go to the next node where I want to designate a curve, and notice when I click on that node, the line that is behind it, since I'm going in this direction, the line that is behind it is the one that turns into the curve. So you can see here, this is the last node, or actually the first node, and I'm clicking on it, and it's the line behind it that is going to turn into a curve. And I got that. There's very little I have to do here, but notice right here I've got a little bump that I don't want to be a bump. I want it to be a smooth line going in and out. And that smooth line is not quite what I want. It's coming out a little bit too far towards the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of the handles and pull in. And notice that when I pull it in, you know, it's not too bad. I would need to do the same thing over here. But I do have another choice, and that is to use my symmetrical. node. And my symmetrical node, notice that when I grab a handle and I move it, the other one moves along with it. If I go in, the other one goes in along with it, and out, the other one goes out along with it. So what that's doing is it makes sure that my curve on both sides is going to be a symmetrical curve. Now I need it to be out just a little bit more, and I got it pretty good, but it's not perfect, and so I can make some adjustments here. I can adjust this node line up here. I'll just grab the handle and pull a little bit, and the same here. Grab, pull a little bit, and I've got pretty much a near perfect representation of this graphic. And I got to go in just a tiny bit. So the results that I've gotten here is actually better than the graphic I started with. So let's turn this to a silvery color, and you can see I'm going to grab the three objects and move them off to the side, delete any outline around them, make them all black, and what we've got here is a really nice smooth graphic. It'll laser very beautifully with nice clean edges. Same if I use it for sand etching or printing, whatever I want to do with it. It is going to be quite good. So let's see if we can talk a little bit more about the nodes. The default setup for all your nodes, if you go up to your tools, options, CorelDraw, and I'm using the 2019 version of CorelDraw, you'll see on your menu here nodes and handles. I'm going to go to nodes and handles, and I made my nodes large, which I do suggest. It's much easier to see them. You can make them small if you want, or medium, but large is good for me. The cusp is a square, which makes a lot of sense, since using a cusp node you can actually have 90-degree angles, or pretty much any angles you want going in and out of a node. Your smooth node is a circle, and your symmetrical node is a four-sided, I guess you want to call it a double triangle or four-sided rectangle that is on a side because it's symmetrical. You can change them to anything you want. You also have colors. You have a color theme, and basically, other than changing the nodes to large, I've left them as default. I think the settings they created were smart settings. So again, if we go down and look at the nodes, and we can do that, we select an object, hit the shape tool, and you'll notice that this is a rectangle or double triangle, and indicates that it is a symmetrical node. And your other nodes here are cusp nodes, and on this particular one I don't have a smooth node. So let's go up and let's do one more thing here. Again, I just want to mention the perfect shape tools. Don't spend time creating objects, tracing objects, or drawing objects that you have a shape tool for. So I've got a shape tool for the ellipses or circles. I've created an ellipse a little big, so I'm going to go down and change the size of that a little bit, and let's make that outline red so that I can see it better. And let's shrink it down a little bit. And double click on it or click on it. I'm going to rotate it some. And I've got just about perfect setup here. Okay, now I can just duplicate that. Rotate it slightly. Duplicate again. Rotate it slightly. Duplicate it, and you notice that it rotated on its own, which was fine. It's a little bit too much, so I'll rotate it back a little. And that's good enough for now. I just want to show you that you have other shape tools. So you have a square and rectangle here. You've got polygon, which can be, you can create a triangle or octagon, pretty much an object with as many sides as you want. There are other common shapes. If you go to your common shapes, go up to your top menu and you'll see perfect shapes. Click on it and you've got a whole host of shapes that you can use. I use the heart a lot. I use arrows quite a bit, and you've got callouts and banners and other things that that you might use as well. So let's just use a heart, and so I'm going to draw a heart, and let's see how good I am here. Good for just giving it a shot there. Now, one of the things that you'll notice that maybe this doesn't, I didn't shape it perfectly. Perfect shapes, you notice that there are nodes. When we click on the shape tool, you'll see that you can't really do a whole lot with this other than make it bigger, smaller, or whatever. But if you hit your Control Q key or go to Objects, Convert to Curves, now it is no longer a perfect shape. It can be turned into anything you want, and you'll notice that there are nodes, quite a few nodes on it now. This node is a smooth node. I want it to be a cusp node because I want to just move this in a tiny bit. And let's just see how I did. Okay, I changed a little too much. It's easy to fix. Pull this out a little bit. Pull this in a little bit. going to pull the handle down a little bit. So you can see it's pretty easy to refine this. So I have a heart that looks very similar to the heart that's up there, and I can continue refining it, but we're going to leave it alone here. You'll notice I make things go a little quicker here. I have laid down a bunch of nodes here, and let's just turn this into the shape of that back part of that paw print. Okay, I'm going to start with the bottom portion. Whoop, we're going to grab that, pull it down, and I got pretty good shape there. Now notice that on the curve of this second portion here, I dropped a node both before and after the curve. And the reason is I want to pull up the curve Notice here with this next one here, I can pull it right into almost a perfect curve there. I'm going to leave that for now. This is just a small bump out here. And this one is going to be, difficult to get perfect, but we're pretty close. So I can see that I don't have, I need a smooth line going both in and out, a smooth curve going in and out, and I can do that by making sure that these handles line up perfectly, or I can save myself some time and just turn it into a smooth node, which I'll do. And pull this handle to the right a little bit and up. Pull this up a little bit, and we've got pretty good representation here. This, just pull down a little bit. This last part of the paw here. So these handles here, or these nodes here, I could turn into smoother nodes, and it gets rid of that little bit of that chunky look. Actually, it looks like all of them can be smooth nodes here. And so I have no little tiny angle at the top, or at where the lines change. Let's turn it into a solid color and see how we did here. Let's do. Whoop, I forgot to see, this is what I mean by locking down your bitmaps. I actually grabbed it and didn't realize where it started, so let's go and lock it down. Now I can't move it again. Now I want to select all the other items there and turn them to some color. Actually, let's turn them to white. And I'm going to hit Control Home. And what that does is bring them to the top, so that when I turn the heart into a color, the other part of the paw is on top.